Hey everyone, it's Konrad Bobilak here, CEO of Investors Prime Real Estate and best-selling international author of Australian Real Estate Investing Made Simple. I've got very exciting news for you, and it's very time-sensitive news as well. Have you ever wondered what one of the secrets is behind the success of celebrity sports stars, movie stars, people that achieve greatness in life, including entrepreneurs? And I've been doing research on this topic for a long time. And one of the key secrets, apart from strategy and psychology, is that a lot of them have a coach or a mentor. And when I look back on my life now at 50, some of the best things that I've achieved in my life, including public speaking, powerlifting, doing martial arts, all those things that I've achieved and are worthwhile achieving, and they were very difficult to achieve, I had a good mentor or coach. And that includes property investing. Even when I was a Medfin, I had a coach who taught me commercial lending and asset finance. So every aspect of my life that I've really been good at, I can't take all the credit for because I had really good people teaching me and holding my hand through the transaction and through the learning curve. And everything has a learning curve. Whether you're doing benching 100 kilos in the gym and you want to go to 150, or whether you're writing loans as a mortgage broker, the common trait that I've observed over the last 2 decades is the most successful people find a coach or a mentor, and they get them and they pay them money, or they buy them lunches or bribe them, do anything they can to get access to their knowledge. And that's one of the hardest things to do, is to get a genuine coach, someone that's achieved exactly what you want to achieve and is willing to help you without an agenda. And I can tell you honestly, and I've said this before, the best things that I've achieved in my life are completely attributable to really good coaches. And so 2 weeks ago, I ran a private webinar for my clients about my mentoring program. A lot of you are not aware of this, that I have a mentoring program which is limited to 100 places. The mentoring program started in 2015 originally, and the concept behind the mentoring program was that I'm going to take 100 people who want to be mentored and coached. And by the way, not everyone wants to have a mentor or a coach. Just like not everyone wants to join a gym and get a personal trainer, a lot of you just want to join the gym and be left alone. So what I'm talking about through today is only relevant to 1 or 2% of the people that are watching this right now. But having said that, I ran a private webinar about my mentoring program, started in 2015, and the idea was to get 100 people and to track and record their progress over 5 years and document everything they did in terms of growing their property portfolio, right down to which properties they purchased, what loan structures they took out, etc., etc. And it was very successful. I had 100 people join pretty much instantly, and then in 2020, 90, give or take one or two, rolled over into another 5 years, and about 10, 11, 12 did into the program again for different reasons. And some of the reasons were they changed direction. I had a client who went into commercial property. I had another couple that went back to the UK. They sold up everything in Australia. There's different reasons. I had one relationship breakup. Hopefully it wasn't us. But anyway, that was a very successful program. And then I had a small opening for another 10 or so people, and that was filled very quickly. Now in 2026, my mentoring program is available, and I've got 10 brand new spots, which is really interesting because once they're filled, the program will be closed for the next 5 years and there'll be no intakes at all. And in fact, in the next 5 years, I can tell you probably with the results that the mentoring clients are having, most of them are going to roll over again for another 5 years. In fact, very few people want to get out of the program because they just make so much money in the program and they get access to special discounts, deals, rebates, a lot of the stuff that's mentioned in the webinar. So if that's something that resonates with you, if you ever wanted to explore the notion of having a coach or a mentor, then definitely watch this webinar. It's about an hour long, and it answers all the questions, and it goes through case studies and examples of some of my clients that I've been personally mentoring over the last 5, 10 years, even longer, and helping them achieve financial independence by building their property portfolio. Hope you enjoy the webinar, and I'll see you at the end. So welcome everyone to today's webinar, which is the Real Estate Millionaire Mentorship Program. And this is the final release of this program that I'm planning to do. And I'm going to talk about the program in detail and a bit of a history about the program. I'm going to talk about a little bit myself, my background, just in case you haven't heard me speak before. And I'm also going to talk about the program, some of the results we've been getting, a bit of psychology, and also the kind of properties that I've been sourcing for my clients in the program, and exactly what the program entails, and who the program is for and who the program is not for. So sit back and relax and grab a coffee, or a V drink, whatever your choice of beverage is, and welcome to today's webinar. So my company, Konrad Bobilak, is actually set up as a buyer's advocacy. I don't advertise this to anyone. I only deal with existing clients through buyer's advocacy. And the main company that I run is Investors Prime Real Estate. And what I believe in, just so you know, when I structure my clients, I believe that most investors that on incomes less than 200,000 per year should buy the first 2, 3, 4 properties brand new off the plan in order to save money on stamp duty, maximize rental yields, and also maximize depreciation on building and fixtures and fittings. And also there's no headaches for the first 5 to 10 years because it's a brand new property. It's like buying a new car. Then and you should buy the property in your personal name. Now, once you run out of serviceability as an individual, you've got to buy properties in trusts because otherwise you're going to max out, which is what happens to 72.9% of all investors. And when you're buying properties in trust, you should set up these structures through a person that knows exactly how to do them to make sure that they are exempt from serviceability and you keep buying property after property. Then I can use my buyer's advocacy service to source established properties that are 100 years old in Carlton, Collingwood, Victorian terrace homes that have no longer have any benefits in terms of there's no depreciation anymore. But you don't need depreciation because you haven't got any tax benefits left. So I actually do a combination of both sourcing through Investors Prime and buyers advocacy as well. And people don't know about the other part because I only work with established clients. I let them know that that's a service that I provide. So we're going to go through a bit of psychology today as well about investing. But the more you learn, the more you earn. That's my experience for the last 49 years of being alive in this world, nearly 50. Bit about my background. So as you know, you probably will watch my YouTube videos. I've got a background in business management through Monash University. I'm also a real estate agent, buyer's advocate, ex-mortgage broking, ex-financial planning. I worked for Australian New Funds Management in Albert Road, South Melbourne. Which is a really good financial planning company and a funds manager. Also, I've spent my whole career, a majority of it, in banking and finance as a mortgage broker, commercial and residential lending, asset finance. And at the end of my lending career, I was working for Medfin, setting up medical clinics and dental clinics in Melbourne, and sourcing multi-million dollar property portfolios for my clients. The last 13 years I've been in real estate through Investors Prime Real Estate, but I've actually been in real estate before then as well, doing a bunch of things, including building my own property portfolio. So I've been in real estate for a long time, and my whole background is very conservative and structured. It's not a rags to riches story. I actually wish I had a really good story like that. I kind of do, which I'll go back to where I came from in terms of migration from Poland. But in terms of my formal education in Australia, I actually got really good grades and I got really good jobs. But I would love to tell you that something happened to me and I was a dishwasher somewhere in a pub, and then suddenly I found the strategy and made me multimillionaire. It wasn't. It was hard work and systematic planning and execution. And so I've got a conservative, very structured, and it was really by design that this happened because I actually wanted to have this particular career because I wanted to crack the investment and lending code. I wanted to find out how rich people get rich and how people accumulate properties. So I've been obsessed with that for the last 30 years. So really since I was 18, I've been obsessed with property investing and studying the most successful people. And the best thing about myself is, apart from my good looks, I'm just kidding, I have very, very low ego, and I've never had this. And this is my biggest, because people ask me, about success, friends and family. My number one trait is I have no ego, and when I see someone succeeding, I have no jealousy at all. I always want to know how can I do it as well. So a lot of people they get envious of people with results. People see someone with a nice car or a nice house or whatever it is, they might get envious and jealous. I don't have that in me at all. I have curiosity and congratulations, great car. How can I get a car like that? That's what I think. I don't think, oh shit, I'll never have a car like that. And I grew up very poor. I grew up from a very humble kind of beginnings, and I'll talk about that as well. I had a mortgage broking company. I burnt out, so I sold that business. And then a real estate company. I had a lot of staff at the beginning. Now I'm doing purely consulting to my clients, and I've got a small group of clients that I work with. And I don't have any inspiration to grow my company to a massive monster where I'm dealing with staff all day. What I love doing at Investors Prime Real Estate, and this is how I design the business, which is the opposite of mortgage broking company that I own, is that I work one-on-one with my clients. So you actually get to work with me. I have lunches with clients. I actually source properties for them. It's hands-on. And that was one of the most important things that I've realized. It took me about 20 years to realize this, that I'm not made um, to grow a company. I don't enjoy that process of hiring people, having HR, politics. It's not me. What I love doing is helping individuals achieve their objectives. That's what I get a kick out of. I'm also a full-time property investor and an author. The way my books actually started, guys, a lot of people don't know this unless you've been to my live event. About 10 years ago, well, actually 2010. So I keep saying 10 years, but it's actually now 16 years because it's 2026. I was in Fiji at the Hilton Hotel in Nadi, and I was falling asleep in a hammock between two palm trees on the beach after my probably 10th, 11th Corona and a bunch of cocktails in between. And I'm falling asleep, and my wife calls me, and she's getting massaged at the day spa. And she says, "What are you up to?" I said, "Nothing. I was just falling asleep." And this is like, in the evening. And she said, we started chatting, and I said, "Isn't it great how we're here, like in a five-star resort, in a private penthouse, not worrying about mortgages or anything, and all my mates are stuck in Melbourne in a cubicle somewhere, stressed out of their minds, working, hating their job." And she says, "Well, I wanted to talk to you about that because I don't think you're doing a lot of charity work." And at the time, I was actually doing stuff with Greening Australia, which is a company that buys land and then they put it into public trust, mainly rainforests in the top tropical north. But I wasn't doing a lot of charity work, and I said, "You're right." And I was researching ways to do that, but every time I did research, I found these charity companies were dodgy and they were just stealing all the money for themselves and buying Land Rovers. In the end, people were getting one cent in the dollar. I'm not saying they're all bad. Don't send me any emails. But I said, "You're right. But you know what I'm going to do? Because it's so cool that we're here, we can enjoy our lives without worrying about stuff. And our property portfolio gave this opportunity to us. I'm going to write a manual on how to do these because I don't believe that people should be stuck in a cubicle for 80 hours a week with email stress. I think most people are destined for more. And so what I want to do is document how I was able to achieve what I achieved at that point in time with my property portfolio, and how I got to the point where I could just go on the holidays all the time and not worry about mortgages and bills coming in. And that's the inspiration for my books. And the first book that I started writing was actually Australian Real Estate Investing Made Simple, which was the first book that I started, and before the finance one. And when I got to the finance section, I started doing chapter after chapter after chapter after chapter, and eventually the whole thing became finance. And I thought, well, this is unsustainable. I can't have a book that's 900 pages long. And so I stopped writing the finance section and went back and started writing finance, because I realized the whole property game, guys, it's not about finding the best properties. If I ask you, like, what are the top 10 suburbs in Melbourne for capital growth, you would know, you have an idea. But if I ask you what's the best structure to build your property portfolio in, a lot of you wouldn't have an answer. You couldn't articulate exactly how to structure 10 properties. But I know how to structure them because I've done it for clients over and over for the last 2 decades. And so really, it's all about money. It's not about property itself. The secret, if there is such a thing in property, is the structuring and the finance. It's all about the money and leverage. That's why I wrote the finance book first. And then when I finished the finance book, then I released the Real Estate Investing Made Simple book, which is all the other stuff, which is, and there's contributions there from lawyers, accountants, all this kind of stuff. And there's a reason I'm telling you all this. I'm not just telling you about my books. Then I'm writing another book now on real estate due diligence and research made simple, which I've done around 14,000 words. So it's going to be around 60,000 words altogether. I'm also nearly finishing a book, which is going to be much shorter. It's only going to be about 180 pages on how to buy real estate through a self-managed super fund made simple. And I've co-authored that book with a financial planner. And then the final book that I'm going to do, and then I'm going to stop writing altogether, is is a book about people's journeys. Because see, the first four books don't have any case studies in them. They just have theory, principles. They've got chapters from experts, but there isn't any particular case study in there about someone that's gone through the journey of zero to hero in 5 years and have bought 5 properties. And so I had an idea for a book, and this is how the mentoring program actually started, where I'm going to take, an average person. When I say average, I'm not talking about intellectual or income. I'll say any person out there that's never invested in property, and mentor them, and in over 5 years, document their journey. So let's say you're a teacher, a police officer, or a farmer, or you can be anyone. And I'll take you through a basic level of education up to a pretty high level of education. But also, I'll just do it for you. I'll just implement everything. I'll tell you what to do, who to go to, how to get the lawyer, how to get the right accountant, the right mortgage strategist, right down to property management, insurance, financial planning, the whole thing, wills, estate planning. Because I know all this stuff. I've been doing this for decades, and I've done it myself at a very high level, and I used to do it at a very high level for my clients. And what the idea was, it was an inspirational book that will have eventually 30 chapters. So I thought about it. I'll get 100 people, and I'll just hold their hand and do the whole thing for them. And then out of the 100, I'll choose 30 people with unique backgrounds, because I don't want, how 30 dentists bought 10 properties. No one's going to read that book. Maybe dentists will, but no one else. So I'm going to choose one person out of every industry and do a chapter on them documenting their whole journey. So it's going to be I've got primary, and by the way, in the program at the moment, I've got primary school teachers, high school teachers, a principal of private school. I've got 2 state police officers, 2 federal police officers. I have lawyers, I have a barrister, I've got accountants, I have about 3 farmers, I have a person that owns a winery in Adelaide, I have oil rig workers in WA, I have graphic design artists, architects, I have influencers, I have web designers. I literally have every walk of life and industry that you can think of in this program. And then eventually what I want to do is write this book, which I'm kind of starting to put together now. So the idea will be that if you're whatever industry you're in, you can pick up the book and say, well, I'm a teacher, I'm on 100 grand a year and I've got no properties. How did this teacher buy 7 properties and 100,000 per year? How is that even possible? And that was the idea behind the mentoring program. It was never designed to be the main thing that I'm doing. It was just a side project for a book. You can always work with me without the mentoring program, because majority of my clients are not in the mentoring program. And so that's how the mentoring program kind of started. And it's been going really well. The book's gone obviously #1 bestseller multiple times for finance and real estate, and I'm really excited about that. And I've written every word. There was no ghost writing. There was no one writing this book for me. Every single line was written by myself. And it's a very concise manual on how to do this whole thing. If you're going to read, 2 books on real estate investing in Australia from a practical manual perspective, it's not a book that will get you excited. It's a book of how to do it. Then these are probably the top 10 books, to read, because they're real. They're not based on theory. I'm not an academic, guys. I'm a real person that's doing it for clients, and we're doing this every day. We're settling and selling properties every month, sourcing, doing deals that you wouldn't believe. And I'll show you some of the deals we've pulled for my clients, which are unbelievable today on this webinar. And so the book's done well. This is my biggest motivation. Number one, it's a way of giving back. Number 2, it's just a manual that I can leave a legacy for other people that want to follow in my footstep. Because I'm 50, by 60, I'm retired. I'm gone. That's it. So I've got 10 more years where I can serve people, and I really enjoy doing this. I get a kick out of it. It is my hobby. So if you want to get a copy of Real Estate Investing, jump onto my website, and also the finance one as well. Building wealth is simple, but it's not easy. And this is not a trick. It's very difficult to build wealth because people don't know the system and the recipe on how to build wealth. Once you know it, it's very simple. It's just following the process. But finding out what the recipe is, that's the hardest thing. And that's the challenge for most people. They never find out what the recipe is, and they never get the right people to help them to actually do it. The biggest thing about successful people versus unsuccessful people, and this is for my clients, running the company now for 14 years and mentoring people, the most successful people in my mentoring program have a very strong why they've decided to do the program and to build wealth. It's not even about the program, it's about building wealth. and leaving a legacy for future generations, or spending more time with their family. Their why is strong. The how is easy. The how is just a system. Anyone can do it. I would say the worst use of your time as an individual is to waste your time. Let's say you're working as an engineer, or a doctor, or I don't know, whatever you're working as, a retail. The worst thing you can do is to try to master the how, because you're going to waste. If you want to replicate my career and Stephen McClutch's career, who's been doing lending now for 25 years, you're going to have to go and work for decades for a company at a very high level. Why would you want to do that to yourself? It's pretty boring. I worked for NAB at Medfit. It's pretty boring and structured. It's not. There's nothing exciting about those jobs. But you learn information that you can implement yourself. So the most important thing I want to just leave you with is just know the reason you got to do it, and then they will give you the motivation to go to the right people, assemble the right team, get the education, because it takes time. But don't worry about mastering every aspect of property investing. You haven't got enough time in your life to do it. And even if you do it, you're going to master it at 65. You're going to be dead broke your whole life, because it takes decades to learn one aspect of investing. Now, my story is pretty basic. I was born in Poland in 1976, migrated here in 85. This is Wrocław in Poland, where I came from, my country, my town in Poland. It's exactly like this right now. It hasn't changed. It's a beautiful part of the world. Poland was under communism from 1946 to 1989. We're under the Russian control. It wasn't a really nice country. There was no food. People were starving. People were oppressed, etc., etc. Then solidarity broke out, and what happened was, people basically, there was a state of martial law, and the whole army went onto the streets, and the whole country stopped. And I remember literally being at school, and there were tanks in front of my school, and I knew that things were wrong. And I remember seeing my mum running towards me when she was picking me up, and she was in a panic, and I went, shit, this is really serious. And we came home, my suitcase was packed, and she says, we're getting out of here, we're going to go. I said, where are we going? I thought we were going for a holiday. She said, no, we're leaving Poland, we're going to go to America, Australia. I don't know yet, I just got to get out of the country, because we're about to have an internal war. And we left, and this is me and my mum in Elwood in 1985 in Melbourne. And we came here, and she's a chemical engineer. She's got a master's in chemical engineering, but no language skills, obviously. My dad stayed in Poland. And so it was really difficult, because I was raised by a single mum. And I'm only sharing this with this story because I want to talk about a very important aspect of my story. So we live in Wrocław. This is the house that we used to live in, but it's been renovated since, so it didn't look that good when we had it. In Muchabur Wielki in Wrocław. We moved to a one-bedroom apartment in Milton Street, Elwood. It was like a one-bedder plus study, because technically it was a one-bedder, but you can say it's two-bedroom. It was very basic, it was very basic one-bedroom apartment. And we ran out of money. My mom had an open ticket to go back to Poland, and we ran out of money. She couldn't get a job. And we were here for like over a year. She had savings, and then she went through all her savings, burned through everything. And we literally had like $20 left. And my mum said to me, we have to go back. And I was already at St. Columba's School in Elwood. I was going to primary school. And I said, no, I don't want to go back. And she goes, but Poland's safe now. Everything's changed. Solidarity won. The Communist Party got toppled. We can go back to your home, to your dad, to your school, to your friends. And something kept me here. I don't know what it was. I can't remember back then, but I just wanted to stay in Australia. And I knew my place was here, and we stayed. And she had $20 left, and she literally went to Coles, and she bought chicken soup and potatoes, and she cooked for 4 days. And she rang everyone that she knew in the Polish community, and she managed to get a job on the last day in Albert Park in a factory, as like a cleaner worker in a window factory for a Polish guy. And she said to him, I don't have any money to survive for the whole week. Can I have an advance? And he gave her an advance, and she stayed. Eventually, she went to RMIT, got a master's recognized, and got a job as a chemical engineer for ICI, which is Orica now. And the rest is history. We stayed. But I remember being 18. This is me in my burgundy suit with a skivvy and an earring. This is the 90s. And I remember I identified myself as a trans financial person. Anyone identifying themselves as a trans financial person, that means you're a poor person we're actually a rich person trapped in a poor person's body. So that day, we were living already in a housing commission unit, and I remember I made a decision that day when I was 18. I'm going to build a property portfolio, and I'm going to reclaim back what I had in Poland, and that was my obsession. And ever since then, I built a multi-million-dollar property portfolio. The reason I'm telling you this story is because if you've migrated to Australia from another country, you've got a very good chance of making money. If you've come from a really bad environment, whether it's China, Russia, especially Eastern European blocks, which were really bad in the 80s. That's why a lot of Eastern Europeans make really good money in America and Australia and Canada, because there's just so many opportunities. If you came from like a shit area into Australia, you've got a really good chance of becoming rich. If you are poor, if you grew up in Australia really broke and poor, and you've managed to break out of that environment, you've got a really good chance, if you've got the awareness, to become rich. If you're middle class Australia, the odds are heavily stacked against you completely. In fact, I have no faith in middle class breaking out of the middle class at all. Because it's so easy to be comfortable and do absolutely nothing in Australia and have a really good lifestyle. You could just work 2 average jobs. You still get your 2 new cars a year, buy a Commodore and a Nissan, have a Queensland holiday, and get a brand new Metricon 4-bedroom house. Why do any more? Yeah. And the killer of success is complacency. It's just being comfortable. You're not wealthy. You're not optimizing yourself. You're not achieving your greatness and your purpose, but you're still not uncomfortable enough to take action. And that's the biggest killer of wealth creation. I know when I used to work for Australian Funds Management, and I was going to stay there for a year or two, just literally get my experience and get out of there. There were people that were working for 20 years, and they were like ghosts. They weren't even human beings. They're just coming in. They weren't unhappy. They weren't happy either. There were just moments during the day where they had a laugh in the breakout room. Something happened. Someone's birthday was a cake. But they were just clocking on, clocking off. 40 years, the same bullshit job in the same bullshit cubicle. Do you know what I mean? And the money's okay. There's benefits, there's security. And that was the biggest killer of going out there and building wealth through property. So I just wanted to leave that thought with you, because if you are middle class and you're comfortable, then you have a huge battle ahead of you. And I'm not telling you, I'm just telling you from a place of goodness and pure energy that I want you to succeed. I'm just saying to you that that's the worst place to be, in my opinion, from what I've seen for the last 25 years as a mortgage broker and a property specialist. Most Australians retire dead broke, asset rich, with one house paid off. And they never, and they regret it 60, 70, they should have done more. Oh man, I could have bought some Kilda for $1,000. They have all the stories. So don't be one of these people. If you've got the awareness to be on this webinar, take action, get educated. You don't have to do it with me, do it with anyone, but do something. Don't just work and pay taxes and wake up at 65. Here are some facts about me. I'm not going to go through my whole portfolio and give you this whole thing because it's pointless. If you've been to my events, you're aware of it. I live in Brighton, a big mansion. That's actually a drawing of it. It's not a photo. I don't want you to know where I live exactly, because I want people knocking on my door, but that's what it looks like. I love my cars. My bucket list car was an AMG 63 CL 2007 with a 6.3 naturally aspirated engine. I bought that using money from my book sales. And I bought a number plate, KBI. And there's my car. I think this is the most beautiful car ever made in the history of cars. It's a daily. So I love that car. Then I bought another AMG 63 AMG Mercedes-Benz, which is a sedan. This is what I use for my clients. And then I also bought a GLS 63 AMG. My next 3 cars will be Bentleys, 4-wheel drive convertible, and a sedan. And I do it because, number one, I had really shit cars when I was growing up, by the way. I do it because I make a lot of money and I pay a lot of tax, and these are all tax-effective vehicles, number one. Honestly, it's never been about buying stuff for me. And this is the thing. If you're motivated by cars, I get it. I'm a petrol head. I love my V8s, okay? So whatever your thing is, do it. You've only got one life. But for me, it was never about buying things. It was about getting my time back. I've always been very conscious of time, and you can always get more money. You can't get more time. Once your time runs out, it's over. A wise friend of mine said once to me, people waste the entire life buying shit they don't need to impress people they don't like. Don't be one of these people. I was never one of these people. And I was never interested in being that person. For me personally, it was always spending time with my family, having holidays, because I never had any holidays when I was growing up, or too poor to have holidays. So I decided with my wife when we had our child that we're going to have 5 holidays per year no matter what. And not worrying about mortgage and stressing and not budget accommodation, some dodgy RACV place, right? So for me, the why was time with my family. That's why I'm telling you all this. I'm not here to talk to you about my personal life because no one really cares. Everyone lives in the bubble. My biggest reason was, number one, I wanted to get back what we left in Poland. That was really, for me, like my childhood trauma, if there's such a thing, right? Because we walked away from everything. So reinstating back what we left. And number two is time with my family, because I'm conscious my daughter will be old before she knows she'll be married and she'll have her own family. You've only got your kids for so long, and people just miss out on things like school plays and being with their children. And then before you know it, it's too late and you're done you know so for me, it's always about holidays. So we spend a lot of money on holidays. These are some examples. I'm not going to go through a lot of my holidays. This is in Castle Albero via Roma in Isle of Capri. This is number one via Roma. Now, the reason I'm showing you this property, my accountant, David Brandy, owns this property and it's cash flow positive from day one. He's getting around 14-15% return per year on this property through Airbnb. He's a multimillionaire, and he has a whole portfolio of commercial and residential properties. This is one of his cheapest properties that he owns. Does your accountant own a property like this? If not, why not? And also, another question, maybe you should upgrade your accountant. So these are the kind of holidays. When I say we go for holidays, we rent mansions around different places. So this holiday here was $27,000. And I'm just telling you not to brag. I'm saying this is what property investing can do for you, because this money came out of property. It didn't come out of my income or my company. It came out of equity from property. This is another holiday we had in Port Douglas, where we had a 5-star villa in the Sea Temple. And so that's the property we had there. So this is another, 30 grand holiday. People say money can't buy happiness. They don't know where to go shopping. This is me in Isle of Capri with my daughter. So here's the thing about property investing. People see the results, but it's an iceberg effect. They don't see the hard work, the perseverance, the persistence, the late nights, the self-doubts, the rejections, the sacrifices, the discipline, the criticisms, all these things, the risk, and eventually pays off. And after you succeed, all that stuff is irrelevant. And everyone that doubted you, they're irrelevant as well. You're going to have a lot of fear when you're doing things for the first time, especially doing things like mentoring programs, buying properties. Is the market going to crash? Is Melbourne going to come back? All these different questions. I want to just give you a couple of nuggets around fear. Fear means growth. Everything I've done in my life worthwhile was out of my comfort zone. And you probably, if you look back at your life, everything you've ever done worthwhile in your life was when you were feeling uneasy and was outside your comfort zone. If it was in the comfort zone, it's not really worth doing. So fear means growth. Things are never as bad as they seem. I always ask the question, what's the best thing that could happen? Not the worst thing that can happen. Like I was doing an event once for 300 people, and this guy says, well, what's the worst thing that can happen, Konrad? You make it all sound good. I don't know, you could die. I don't know, become, end up in a wheelchair broke, bankrupted. I don't know what the worst thing is. But the worst thing to me is not taking any risks at all and just living life and paying taxes, and then realizing at 65, you could have done all this stuff, but you didn't take any risks. So the biggest risk in life is not to take risks. We always get stronger. We always become stronger than we think through rising through fear. Fear is part of life, and it doesn't need to be eliminated. We always feel fear when we step outside the comfort zone. It's all around everything worthwhile that I've done. And I know with my clients the same, is outside the comfort zone. Inside the comfort zone are things you already know and you already control. Things, if you want a large property portfolio of 10 properties, you've got to learn things, you've got to assemble a team, you've got to write psychology. All that stuff happens outside your comfort zone. It's not inside your comfort zone. Otherwise, you have it already. The more you learn, the more your comfort zone expands and incorporates new knowledge, new people, new networks. Success happens outside the comfort zone. There is no growth in the comfort zone. There's just stagnation. And this is the saddest part of that I've seen with life. And I'm so happy that I went through a shit struggle and we left Eastern Europe and we did in the 80s. Single mum growing up in a 1-bedroom plus study apartment in Elwood, being broke completely, like no money at all, nothing, no holidays. We couldn't afford school payments. We got sponsored, all that stuff, because now I have such gratitude for what I have. The saddest thing is when people lack gratitude, and also people that just don't do anything and they have so much opportunity, but they don't activate them. They don't actualize who they are. So 98% of people live inside in the comfort zone, living a life of quiet desperation. Only 2% of people go outside. And I don't believe I can ever change those statistics, by the way. If there's 300 people in this webinar, there's going to be 10% of you that will do something, I hope, or even less, and the rest of you won't do anything. There'll be justification why you won't do it, why property investing is dead. Maybe I should do crypto, or maybe I should do drop shipping through Amazon. There's so many different opportunities, and that's cool. And I'm not a naive person to think that I can alter statistics. I'm just here to capture those people that already want to change. That's what I'm trying to do with the mentoring program. I'm not here to inspire people. I just want to say I have a solution for you, and this is what it's done for me. I have a team, I have a system, a proven system. If you come with me, you get the same results. That's it. So I'm not here to convince you guys you should invest in property. Don't invest. I don't care. The dumbest thing I can ever do is to convince people that property investing is a good thing. And I had this phone call from a client years ago. He says, "Convince me property investing is good." I said, "That's like me convincing that powerlifting is superior to golf." Doesn't that sound absurd? Do you know what I mean? Like, I love powerlifting. I don't like golf. I'm not a golf person. But both are legitimate sports, and golf has more money in it and is more glamorous. Powerlifting is very kind of underworld dingy. But why would a golfer convince a powerlifter to play golf and vice versa? It doesn't make sense. It's a waste of energy and time. So you just have to find whatever you resonate with and go with that thing. And this is what the mentoring program is all about. It's not about convincing people that property investing is the best thing you can ever do. It's just convincing people that we have a system that if you want to do property investing passively, we've got the system for you. And outside is where the magic happens, guys. That's where all the magic happens. So you step on your fear. If you want it, if you've got a good reason why, then step into your fear. Embrace your fear. Remember, if you plan on being anything less than you're capable of being, you'll probably be unhappy for the rest of your life, all the days of your life. Now, to begin is the most important part of the quest, by far the most courageous. Starting correctly is the hardest thing ever in property investing. And getting your first property is the hardest thing. If you stuff up your first property, most likely you'll never go back and get the second one. It's like getting food poisoning at a restaurant. That's it, you're out, And it's sad to see people that lost money in different markets in different times because they miscalculated the market. I've seen people getting wiped out in Perth in the mining sector. I've seen people buying Karratha, South Hedland, Port Hedland, the peak of the market, from 1.2 million. Now they're worth 700,000. They've lost millions. I've seen people getting wiped out in Queensland in the mining towns. People lose money all the time in everything. It's unfortunate that they don't turn that into a motivational thing rather than an excuse not to go on. So starting correctly is probably the hardest and most important thing, because if you have a good experience for your first one, you're going to catch the bug. You probably never stop investing. Now, how do you expand my level of awareness? Well, your level of awareness is responsible for your success, and it's effective education combined with professional mentoring over a reasonable period of time that will expand your level of awareness. That's the secret of becoming wealthy through property. And awareness means education, books, network, talking to accountants, solicitors, other investors, and then you need professional mentoring. Everything that I've done in my life worthwhile, I had a mentor and a coach. Whether it was playing soccer, whether it was powerlifting, whether it was swimming, at different stages, had different hobbies. It was always a coach was there. Same with finance. When I was doing commercial lending, I had a coach. When you have a coach, you just cut back on time and you cut back on mistakes. Mistakes are very costly in real estate investing. If you buy the wrong property in the wrong structure, you could be costing you tens of thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. So don't make mistakes in property investing, guys. It will wipe you out. Why do so people succeed in real estate investing? Because they don't have a plan and they have a buy and hold, pray to God plan. Please, God, make this property go up. I don't want to look like an idiot in front of my friends and peers. Please make this property go up and I'll buy a red Ferrari. That's not a plan. So those books that I've written are purely for you to read, and then you can create your own plan. You can identify your how and why, and then you can implement. It's that simple. This is the recipe. So if you want to, bake a cake, This is the recipe for the cake. You just follow the recipe. You don't need to reinvent the recipe. Now, you can reinvent the recipe after you've done 100 cakes. You can start varying it, but to reinvent the recipe for your first cake is suicide. And that's what the Real Estate Millionaire Mentorship is all about. The program started in 2015. I had 100 people join the program. Out of the 100 people, around 6-7 people dropped out of the program. There were different reasons. Number one, people's relationships broke. I didn't see this coming. Divorce, de facto relationships breaking down. So both go separate ways. The portfolio gets sold, and they don't invest. I had people go overseas, relocate from Australia permanently to the UK and to America, and they literally sold up everything. I've also had people who changed the direction. They bought 3 properties for the program, and then they still stayed in the program, but they went into shares and crypto, and now they're really working in that space, and they're not building their property portfolio. In 2020, I released a few more places because I always want to have 100 people active in the mentoring program, which I did. And then in 2020, I released a new number of limited places. You would have seen the webinars if you go back through your emails, and I released 6 new places. And then I released 4 more. So I had 10 new people join. And then once again in 25, we had, so 2020, we had another group going through, and now I've got 10 places. So 90 of them are staying. They're super happy. And some of them have rolled over for another 5 years. Which is completely, some of them don't need me after 5 years, some do. So now I have 10 places available for an intake. And I'm only going to ever have 100 people in the program because it's very hands-on. I don't have anyone working with me with the mentoring. It's me on the mobile phone, me on the email, me sourcing properties. And there's only one me. I don't work that hard. So there's only going to be 100 spots ever in the program. And the only reason I'm offering these 10 spots is because there are currently 90 active people in the program. The rest are not active. Sorry, there's 90 active people, 10 places available. And so we're just doing another rollover of those 90, and I've got 10 places that are available. So there's only going to be 10 places. The next time you're going to see this opportunity will be 5 years from now, okay, once I fill the 10. What's included in the program? Number one is, this is kind of micro level, but I'm just going to jump into it. This is how my brain works. We do a 3-hour initial customized consultation, whether it's on Zoom or in my St Kilda office. We sit down, work out exactly where you are, work out exactly where you want to be. And the more clarity I have about point A, point B, the better the execution. And then we get you financially pre-approved. It might include, depending on what you are, I've got people in IT on 130 grand that are living at home with their parents in the program. I've got pharmacists who own 6 pharmacies and they have 20 trusts. So obviously the level of analysis that I needed with the pharmacist versus the 23-year-old working in IT with parents is very different. So one for the single guy, it's easy. I can do everything. For the other one, we need accountants. We need, proper assessments from mortgage strategists. So that could take anywhere from 3 hours up to 3 weeks, to work out exactly where you are. A lot of people don't even know where they are financially. I'm not talking about how much money you make, like literally financially, your borrowing capacity, your risk profile, all those different things. I'm not aware of it. So we identify point A and point B. Then we look at properties. We develop a plan. And then we shortlist some properties. And this might take a couple months by this stage. And he also includes a whole day with me looking at suburbs. And this is if you want to, when I narrow down the range of properties and suburbs for you. So if you're interstate, fly in for a whole day, I'll take you around Melbourne and show you the areas that I've shortlisted for you. If you're in Melbourne, it's the same thing. Some people don't do this. I've got doctors and surgeons and anaesthetists that don't do this. I've got other people that spend a whole day with me. That's why there's only so many people I can do this with during the year. You get a personal introduction to my whole team. So if you haven't got a good mortgage broker, good strategist, good accountant, good financial planner, good solicitor, conveyancer, quantity surveyor, you need them in your team. Your team will make or break you. You cannot replicate their knowledge, and they need to be successful. They need to be multimillionaires, directors of companies. And I'm not even kidding, guys. All the ones that I deal with own their own company, and they're super wealthy people. They're not employees working for NAB somewhere, on some minimum income. These are very successful people. And so you need a team. You need to be If you want to write down one distinction today out of this webinar, if you follow this one rule, it will make you more money than anything else that I can teach you. Your network will determine your net wealth. You want to be the dumbest and poorest person in your network. You want everyone around you to be better than you and richer than you, because eventually your level will rise up. If you're the smartest person in your network and everyone's broke around you, you're in trouble. You're in trouble, guys. How can you soar like an eagle if you're surrounded by pigeons? Think about it. You want to be a pigeon surrounded by eagles and not get eaten, okay? I don't know how that metaphor or analogy works. Priority access to properties and developers. I'm going to show you what projects I've sourced past and deals that I've done. It's incredible. Just accessing the experts is worth it, because that's like a huge part of the solution. So the number one thing we do with property investing is, and people don't know this, number one is, remember Warren Buffett's rule number 1 and 2 of building wealth. Rule number 1, never lose money. Rule number 2, never forget rule number 1. Okay, so you have to make sure you protect your house and you never risk what you have currently, you build on top of it. Because if you lose money, just to go back to zero, it could take you a decade. And remember, what gets grouped together dies together. That's why we use trust for everything. And when we structure our property portfolio, we go through business banking, because remember, the new changes as of 1st of February, you can only borrow 6 times your income per year. Okay, that's it. Google it. So how are you going to get 5 properties or 10 properties? Well, you buy them through trusts. And when you buy them through trusts, through business banking, they can get left out of the serviceability equation. If you don't understand this, I can't teach you right now. I've got videos about this on my YouTube channel. All right. So there's a whole video explaining for now how you can maximize your borrowing capacity through trust. As an individual buying properties in your personal name, you can only borrow 6 times your income. If you're on 100 grand a year, you can only borrow 600,000. You're maxed out. That's it. You're gone. You can't buy more than one property. So how do our clients getting 5, 6 properties? Well, because they're using structures. Now, I've had a broker ring me recently after I released that mortgage on how rich people are maximizing borrowing through trusts. He says everyone's pulling out of, which they're not, by the way. Everyone. He's spoken to everyone in Australia. Do you know what I mean? It's just, what does that mean, everyone? Everyone's pulling out. All the lenders have changed the rules. Well, not all the lenders. And I said, so when you say all the lenders, who did you speak to? Well, Macquarie and NAB. Okay, well, there's how many lenders do you think there are in Australia? There's 4, I don't know. So I had a guess. You know, I know you don't know. Just, you know, you work in the industry. Tell me. I think it's 60, 100. I said 480. So there's a lot of options out there. Okay, so he says, I don't know how to do this. And I said, I believe you. I believe you. He said, what? I said, I believe you don't know how to do this. But I'm not here to teach you as a broker how to do this. It's not my job. I'm just here to help people to do this. And the brokers that I work with already know this stuff. If you don't know how to do this, guys, you're going to get stuck. And this is your golden ticket to wealth creation. It's the ability to use this structure to buy properties. And once they're cash flow positive in a trust, they get exempt from the serviceability criteria. This is how we get our clients in the mentoring program to 5, 6, 7 properties. Otherwise, it's impossible. No one can do. You can't secure 7 properties with your job income as an individual. You have to be on $1 million a year. And none of my clients, oh, actually a few are on $1 million, but not many. So we set up these structures for you, and you don't need to understand how this structure works. Okay, it just works. I don't know how the combustion engine works. I know what kilowatts and horsepower are. I know what 0 to 100 is and quarter mile, but I couldn't explain to you why my AMG engine works the way it works. But I know what it does. And that's the same with these structures, guys. Don't be an expert on trust and trust deeds. You haven't got to know. It's the most boring topic ever, and it's not where the money is. So you just have to get the people that are doing this all day long for other people and just tap into it, okay? But one thing I can guarantee you in life, okay, especially if you're near retiring, if you buy properties in your personal name and then you stop working, you cannot borrow money in Australia. Okay, if you have no job at 65, you're retired, your lending stops, you can do reverse mortgages. So you have to set up a series of trusts and a consulting trust before you retire and start channeling money into it. So when you transition into retirement and you're getting distributions paid, you become a consultant and a professional investor, and you can still borrow money from the bank. The time to do this is 10 years before you retire. If you try doing this after you retire, it's too late. You can't do it and you'll be stuck. So you have to put these things in motion earlier on. So if you're only retired at 65, you've got to start putting these things together at 55. If you want to retire at 30, you got to start doing this at 20. You got to have 10 years of track records, and then you go through private wealth or business banking. A lot of people don't know this exists. Brokers have no idea either. Most brokers, I got the brokers that I work with know all this stuff. So this is how we structure our clients, and that way they can keep borrowing money and paying off their house in record time. We developed the whole plan for them. If you fail to plan, you play to fail. That's the reality of life. What properties we shortlisted in the mentoring program? I have access to everything. I've got access to nearly 1,500 properties at any one time. Majority of them are townhouses. I'm a big fan of townhouses because you can go to a good area where houses are impossible to buy. They're too expensive and the rental yields are too low. You know, like Q's a great area, but Q houses will set you back 3 million. The rental's 2%. They don't work mathematically. But you can get a townhouse in Q that still works, and you can still rent it out for 4.5%. Apartments, I'm not a big fan of. They'll come back in vogue eventually. Right now, I'm not doing any apartments. I have a list of apartments and suburbs that I think will do well. Granaris, all those kind of areas, McKinnon, and they're really boutique apartments. And house and land estates, I have access to 96 house and land estates in Melbourne. A lot of the house and land estates that I do for my clients on low incomes are leased back from the developer where you're getting 8, 9, 10, 11, 12% rental yield. So the moment you sell that property, the developer owns it. He leases it back from you as a display suite. He can keep accumulating more properties. Otherwise, house and land takes forever to grow. Let me show you some examples. This is a development we did ages ago in Doncaster East, which is 17 km from the city. These are actual examples of properties I've sourced for my mentoring clients in the program. And this is a small sample. I can't show you 100 examples because we'll be here for 4 hours and everyone's going to hang up. So apartments, this is an example where we had a developer who agreed to do vendor finance, where clients would borrow 80% and he would finance the other 22 to 25%. So they were buying these properties with no money down at all. So that was incredible. And these were kind of ranging. They're 2-bedders in Doncaster East, kind of between 558,000 to 708. So these are apartments where you can do 100% finance with vendor finance and 80% lend, which is awesome. So property prices 588 to 708, financial pre-approval from Loans Australia, and then you have to have access to legal costs and stamp duty. So as long as you have 33,000 to 41,000, we can finance the rest through a combination of vendor finance and the actual first mortgagee. And I had 8 of those available. This is where a developer gifted a deposit of 10% to the clients. This is in Barclay Street in Mornington. And basically this developer, I'm not going to go through why, because you can read this later on. I sourced a lot of townhouses there where people were gifted the deposit from the developer to buy these townhouses. So the properties were $750 and he gifted them $75,000 in cash to put as a 10% deposit. And then he would also do vendor finance on top of that. But most clients ended up buying those and using that as a deposit and just paying stamp duty and selling. I did 7 of those with my mentoring clients. Here's an example where we did a combination of 50% rebate at settlement on properties where there was no stamp duty rebates available. Now, some of these ended up having both government stamp duty and a rebate from the developer. So the clients ended up getting 100% stamp duty paid for by the developer and the government. So they got 2. So on $1 million, your stamp duty is 56,000 in Victoria. They got 56,000 from the combination of off the plan discounts and stamp duty from the government and also from the developer in cash. This is in the 43 Swanson Street in Heidelberg Heights. That was available, and other projects that I sourced for my clients. But just so you know, and a lot of people don't know this is a little bit of a side thing. If you're buying off the plan properties in Melbourne, especially townhouses, and they have no common driveway or common land. So for example, this project here, Connell Spencer Street and Swanson Street, which I sold, has 4 townhouses. You can see there's no common driveway. There's no stamp duty discounts, even if it's off the plan in Victoria. The new legislation doesn't allow for any stamp duty discounts. If there was a common driveway in there and there was a strata, so there's a common driveway that's not owned by the council, you would pay up to 50% discount, even 60, when you buy off the plan for this property. A lot of people don't know this. They don't have a distinction. There has to be a common driveway. So there's a bit of free education for you today at no cost. I never charge for the education anyway. So these are the kind of examples that I source. 4-bedroom townhouses in Heidelberg Heights and West. They've gone up by 100 grand for the last 3 years in a row. So every year they made 100,000. And Melbourne's been a really bad market, by the way. It's just been going sideways. This is completed stock. Here's a client of mine, Janet from Melbourne. This is a case study. I should have done more case studies for this webinar, but there's only 10 places and I couldn't be bothered. So she joined my mentoring program and she bought 2 properties in 3 years. And this is an email she sent me. Hi, Konrad. Thanks for checking in. I attached 2 photos of myself to choose from. I'm glad to be in your testimonial. I asked Janet, do you want to do a testimonial for me? She goes, yeah, sure, no problem. For your information, we bought a Mara at 838,000 in Oakley South and refinanced through CBA 1.315 million valuation in 1 year. In Heidelberg Heights Townhouse, we got both government stamp duty concession and developer rebate. So now we are not paying stamp duty and almost get 5,000 left in cash, which is really cool and cheeky as well, but it's cool. I've also attached the analysis tool I'm developing. I'm aiming at the first full version in June. I'm definitely sending it to you to play with. The tool is designed to help agents quickly generate property investment analysis. She's doing software like to analyze numbers, etc., etc. So she bought this property here in Oakley South, and I actually saw 17 properties in Oakley South when it was super cheap. And you would have seen the emails because I was blasting my database like for a whole year saying, this is one of the best projects that I've ever sourced in 10 years, buy it. So it was purchase price 838,000, new valuation 1.15, equity created 477,000, which is insane, in terms of the capital growth potential. Now that's valuation. That probably wasn't sold. It was just valued and we got released equity. This is another property that she purchased, which is a second purchase where there was no equity release here. So what you're doing is you're leapfrogging from one to another. The reason I'm showing you this, in my mentoring program, I teach you how to recycle equity and use equity from one property to another to build your wealth. Now, if you can create the equity in the deal structure, it's even easier because the hardest thing to do, guys, is to save a 10% deposit. If you ever tried saving one, like 100 grand, $150,000, it will take you a lifetime to save. But if you can create the deposit in the structure of the deal, vendor finance, gifted deposit, equity growth, whatever, buying wholesale below market, all these different things that I do, then you can get to those 4, 5, 6 properties very quickly and then get the momentum going. And that's what I offer in the program. This is why it's priceless. Her goal is to get 80 investment properties in 10 years. I'm sure we're going to get there. She's a super smart lady, very successful. So we're definitely going to get there. So this was the project that I sourced in number 10 of Alvina Street, Oakley South. Here's some examples to give you an idea of how much capital growth these properties can get, even in a flat market. Melbourne's been a really bad market since COVID. It's just going sideways. It's about to take off now. This is 10 Alvina Street. Go there on the weekend. 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom, double garage. Purchase price 838. Deposit 10% always. September 22 is when I sourced the project. Valuation 1.315, 477,000. I just realized I made an error on the previous slide for the purchase. The valuation is much higher. I thought that 477,000 was a bit too high for the gap. So 56.92% capital gain. This is townhouse 6 in 8 to 10 Lincoln Road, Essendon. I sourced that property for $1,045,000. Big fan of Essendon. It's a great area to invest in always, at the right price, obviously. 4-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom, and this was sold. Sale price $1,045,000 when I sourced it. Deposit $104,500. Settlement date was September 22, and then it was sold by the owner for 1.25. They made 200,000. 205, 19.6% between 22 and December 23. Not bad. You can't go bankrupt taking a profit. So you can take that money, go for a couple of really nice holidays, use it as equity to buy a property, buy a Fat Boy Harley, whatever your thing is, guys. Buy an AMG, Mercedes-Benz, 200 grand's good. Could be worse. Townhouse 7, Overman Court, Essendon, 945,000. Another project that I sourced in Essendon when Essendon was really good. Now Essendon now is I think is overpriced. I'm actually looking at Needry and East Killor, but Essendon at one point in time was super cheap, and I was telling people that's the number one area I'm focusing on. And if you've bought there when I was sourcing, you would have cleaned up. Purchase price 995. Deposit was 10%, 99,500. Settlement date was October 2019. Really bad time to settle. So COVID. Current valuation 1,185. December 21. It was sold. 190,000 capital gain, 19.10%. This is a project that I sourced for a client of mine that just bought his second property in Morotai Crescent, Heidelberg West. He bought it for $899. You would have seen his project advertised on through everything through my website. So that was 3 of 49 Morotai Crescent, Heidelberg West. Gentrification suburbs, so really rough going through gentrification. 4 bedroom, 3 bathroom, 2-car garage. Purchase price 995. 899, I should say. Deposit was 10%. December 22. Current valuation, we had it valued at 1.1. My PowerPoint, something happened to them and I didn't save properly. December 25, we had it revalued, unlocked equity of $200,000, and we borrowed against that to buy a deposit, to get a deposit out for another development. So that's kind of I can just go on and on, like hundreds of examples. This is your last chance to join my mentoring program. I'm not offering any more places. Maybe in 5 years from now, I'll offer more places. So I'll be basically promoting this until the 10 places are taken up with the right person. It's a system that's designed to fast track you into 10 properties over 10 years. To leapfrog the equity from one property to another. Even if you've got equity in your home, you just want your house paid off and unencumbered. There's no reason to draw against it unless it's the first 1 or 2 purchases. Now remember, your network equals your net worth. And this is the thing. Here's a list of external property experts and advisors that I work with personally that have built my wealth and also my clients. I refer them also as the A team of the world. So there's Stephen McClutchy, who's done $1 billion in settlements from Loans Australia. I sourced the properties, obviously. There's property accountant James Black from Brandy & Co. Colin, I deal with 6 lawyers. Colin's my lawyer that I work with. He did my property settlements, by the way, so that's why I refer clients to him. And I've been working with Colin now. I've known him over 20 years, which is crazy. Senior partner in Batten Sex Lawyers. Cameron Fisher from Changing Places Real Estate. He looks after some of my properties. I've known Cameron for 20 years. Jacek Klukowski is a financial planner, very pro-property. He's got his own wealth management company and financial planning firm. And so what happens with the client is you get this whole team of experts around you who are all pro-property, number one. Number two, they all know each other as well. So they can pick up the phone, call each other and coordinate and execute your plan. And they are the ones that would drive your success. You're still in control of the whole thing. You're the driver, but you're relying on their expertise. And all they do is high-end property transactions. Their whole business is set up for property investors. It's a niche market, and they are some of the best ones in that niche market. The richest people in the world build networks. Everyone else trained to look for work. So the rich build networks, the poor work for their money. So what happens in the mentoring program is you get the first strategy consultation, work out A, second, work out B. That could be the same consultation, or it could be something that evolves over weeks or days, depending on how quickly you act. Then you go to a mortgage broker, you get a financial assessment pre-approval. So you can borrow $1 million, you can borrow 1.5, 2 million. Then we source properties based on your objectives, which we established in point number 1 and 2. Then you go to the accountant to work out the structure you're going to be buying them in. Should you be buying them in your individual name, a trust structure, or your super fund? Then we get the lawyer to check all the contracts. Then you get the property manager, insurance, financial planning, right down to wills and estate planning. This is literally once, and it's done for you perfectly, and you never have to worry about it again for the rest of your life. Now, also, I'm a big fan of education. So part of the mentoring program is I give you access to a 4-day recording boot camp, which we did in 2022 for my existing clients, called the Property Portfolio Accelerator Summit. And this was a 4-day boot camp for people that already have 5 properties plus. And I've turned it into an online video course. It was recorded in 22. It's still like 80% current. And that's included in the program. So you get to have that program, learn through videos and the manual over time, and you can go at your own pace. And if you get stuck with any topic, come and see me and I'll go through that with you. So that gives you all the practical information. And the combination of watching this and my YouTube channel gives you market updates. You're pretty much 100% informed. Nothing's really changed in property investing in the last 10 years at the big picture level, at the macro level. Micro level, things change every day. But the big picture stuff, guys, is the same. So that's included in the program as well. And that's valued at $997. If you're interested in applying for the program, all you got to do is email me for an application form. This is not a program where you can just pay money and be in. This is through an interview process. We're going to be working together for 5 years. I want to make sure that you were both the right fit for each other. So I will do an interview with you for an hour for free. Now, there's a minimum qualifying criteria, and I tried to keep that as cool as possible. I don't source any properties under 700,000. They don't exist. No one's going to build anything under 700 in Melbourne worthwhile to invest in. So you've got to have at least $700,000 purchasing power. So if you're a single person, you need to be on about 95 grand per year and have about 112,000 in equity or savings. If you're a couple, it's 140. Or get a pre-approval from a bank for 700,000. Most properties that I source now, even including 2-bedroom apartments, don't fall under 700,000, or they'll be like 695. Nothing below that I recommend investing in. In Melbourne, it's not worth it. You might as well go to Adelaide or other markets where it's cheaper, you're getting more value for money, or go regional. But Melbourne, really under 700, just not worth it, guys, in my opinion. So you got to have at least the ability to buy one property to be in the program, and that's the minimum amount. Upwards, I have properties for $6 million, in Campbell or Canterbury, and everything in between. But that's the minimum. So the application process, grab that form. There'll be a link sent to you after this webinar as well. You can download it in PDF, fill it out, download the form, and email it to me. When you email it to me, we'll have a book in a 60-minute consultation. And then we can go through your situation. You can ask questions. I'll ask you a bunch of questions. I'll read the application form as well. That highlights all your goals, what you're trying to achieve in property investing, all those kind of things. So that will also give you a really good understanding of what the program entails, but also I'll talk to you about your specific set of circumstances and what you can achieve in 5 years realistically based on your income and equity. So how many properties you're going to end up, what kind of rental income you're going to be providing from those properties, all that kind of stuff. You don't have to be great to start, but you do have to start to be great. Very good quote. Guys, don't buy into the job scam. I realized this very quickly when I was working for Australian Uni Funds Management. The 9 to 5 scam. Retirement is 65. Life expectancy is 78. You work for 50 years to be free for 13 years. It doesn't make sense. And you're giving away the best 50 years of your life while you're young to the company. And then when you retire, you'll finally achieve your holidays. And you don't want to be that couple in Italy, in Venice and Florence falling asleep, because then it's too late. You want to experience life while you're still young and good looking. Because remember, when you go for holidays, you're still you. So if you're a sad you before you go for holidays, you're going to be a sad you in Italy. You can't change who you are. Fear will hold you back. And 5 things we can learn from fear. Fear is only temporary. Regret is forever. The program is $9,997, 10 grand for 5 years, $2,000 per year, bargain. And I guarantee you, you'll make at least 3 to 4 times that $10,000 in rebates, discounts, and upgrades to property. Some of my clients have made 10 times more. Some made 20 times more than that just in rebates and upgrades and discounts. So that 10 grand, it is what it is. If you're interested, definitely send me an email, conrad@investorsprime.com.au after this webinar, or just download the actual PDF application form and send it to me. There's only 10 places available, and I'm not releasing any more for the next 5 years once they're filled. Final thoughts. Have you ever seen a photo of a rich family and wondered how it all started? It doesn't matter what background that is, whether you're Jewish, whether you're Indian, whether you're American, whether you're from Africa, from the Middle East, it doesn't make a difference. Whether you're from Eastern Europe, from Russia, from Vietnam, from Japan, from China, it's always the same story. It started with that one person, the one uncle, the grandfather, that guy who refused to accept the status quo, the guy or girl who refused to settle for the paycheck. And they knew they were just better for what they were doing. And I felt that way. I knew that I was working in a good job, but I knew I was better than this. And I knew deep down that I was not intended to be here, to be stuck in a cubicle 60 hours a week answering emails, trading time for money. Remember, a salary is a drug they give you to forget your dreams. And also, you're either building your dreams or you're building someone else build theirs. When I was working for Australian Funds Management and NAB, I realized that I was working not for my dream, but for the dream of the shareholders who get dividends, an increase in shares, and also directors who get bonus checks. So you're always working for someone's dreams, guys. You're either working for your dream or someone else's dream. And that's the thing you got to decide what you want to do. And maybe you're that girl or person who refused to live that life of quiet desperation like I did. That person that would just worked overtime, did late nights. I sacrificed. I read the books, took all the risks. Why? Because I knew I was the only one that could do it in my family. And I was that person in my family that came from humble beginnings into relative comfort and wealth. This is the day I started at 18. And I started there because I made a decision that day when I was in that housing commission unit living, and it was a good housing commission unit, by the way, in Chatston, still there. I made a decision to change and not to settle. If you don't come from a rich family, maybe a rich family will come from you. If you're interested in the program, guys, come and see me. Let's talk. Thank you very much. Hey guys, it's Konrad Bobilak here. I hope you enjoyed that webinar, and I know that some of you might have a lot of questions about the mentoring program. For some of you, the program is not relevant. As I mentioned before, I honestly believe, and I'm completely guesstimating here, out of my 20,000 subscribers on my YouTube channel, this is probably relevant to less than 1% of my viewers. So for some of you, mentoring and coaching is not something that's appealing, and I completely understand some people don't want to do it. For me personally, I can tell you now, the best things that I've achieved in my life, from personal training to public speaking to, leaps and bounds in my various careers, including financial planning, funds management, I've always had really good coaches and mentors. And so to me, it's just a bit of a no-brainer. I mean, you don't want to reinvent the wheel yourself. You don't want to make mistakes yourself. The most intelligent people learn from the mistake of others. Having a coach and a mentor is an amazing thing. It keeps you accountable. It keeps you honest. And also you get momentum. And also if you have any questions or if you want to run something by someone without having an agenda, that's what they're there for. So to me personally, it's an amazing opportunity. Having said that, there's only 10 places available. So if anything that you've watched tonight resonates with you, what I encourage you guys to do is grab an application form. You can download one just by the link below, or email me directly, Konrad@investorsprime.com.au, and request a application form for the mentoring program. I'll send you one. We'll jump on the Zoom call. I'll have a coffee in my St Kilda office, whichever one is easier for you, and I'll go through the program with you in detail. That's it, guys. Thank you for subscribing to my YouTube channel. This is Konrad Bobilak. I'll see you on the inside.